June 1967. It was the first week of the Summer of Love, and the Jimi Hendrix Experience landed in San Francisco, the epicenter of the happening. Jimi's iconic single, Purple Haze, had been released earlier that week, and DJs at San Francisco's underground FM station were playing cuts off his first album. Jimi was riding high off the buzz of his electrifying performance at the Monterey Pop Festival the previous week. On June 25, 1967, Jimi Hendrix played a free concert at San Francisco's Golden Gate Park. It was on that day that the paths of James Marshall Hendrix and Jeffrey McMeans crossed and were captured by Jim Marshall's camera. The resulting photograph became rock and roll history.
Hi, I'm Jeff McMeans. One day in 1993, I went over to my friend's in Thousand Oaks, but he wasn't home. But his son, who's in a garage band, was there and said, "Hey, you can hang out here until Dad shows up. It'll be about 20 minutes. And then I thought, well, what am I going to say to him for this 20 minutes? And then I thought of the story about Jimi Hendrix that I had. Well, I had never told this story of Jimi Hendrix to anyone. So I told him the story. And he didn't believe it, but he never said that. But the next day he went over to Jameson Grant, his pal, and told him the story. And Jameson said, well, I have a picture of Jimi Hendrix in my suitcase. And he went over to get it and brought it and showed this kid. And the guy goes, oh my God, that is Jeff, my dad's friend. Yeah, I thought he was lying. And this is the first time I've ever, basically told this story. I was going to Santa Monica City College when I started hearing music that was coming out of the Bay Area. And I decided, you know what, I'm only going to put in to transfer to San Francisco State College, which worked. So I moved up to Sausalito, and I was going to San Francisco State College, and the end of the semester came, and this guy came in and said, hey, does anybody want a summer job? And I said, yeah, I do. And so he said, show up at this meeting. So on the night before the meeting, I dropped acid, and had a great trip. The next morning, as I started to come down, I went, oh my God, I'm supposed to be at that meeting in San Francisco. And I don't know how I did it, but I jumped in my car over the Golden Gate Bridge and got to the meeting at San Francisco State College. And the people were going like, well, hey, I want to work with the Latinos down in the Mission District. You're approved. Well, hey, I want to work with the young black kids in Hunters Point. Oh yeah, okay. I want to, you're going to be doing that. Okay. And when they got to me, I'm still stoned out of my head. I said, I want to go down to Haight-Ashbury and study what's happening there. And at the end of the semester, summer, write a synopsis of that. And they said, okay, you're approved. So I was going to make $500 a month, which you can't even imagine how much that is. Well, my houseboat I was renting was $75 a month, but they came up with $100 expense money, and I really didn't know what to do with that. So I went down to the Psychedelic shop on Haight Street. They kind of do community events out of there, and I said, could you guys use the money? And they said, yeah. In fact, this Sunday we're putting on a free concert in Panhandle at Golden Gate Park, and we could use that to rent a flatbed truck for the stage and a generator for the, the energy for the musicians. And why don't you come to that meeting? And so the next Sunday morning, I got up at my houseboat, jumped in the car, drove over to the bridge, got to the Psychedelic shop, and I really didn't have much to do with the meeting. And I'm sitting in the back of the room, and at the end of the meeting, when everything was worked out, they said, does anybody have a car? And no one had a car because in San Francisco, they have such great public transport. But I'm from LA, and you're born with a car. You have to have a car. So I put my hand up, and the guy says, go to the Travel Lodge at Fisherman's Wharf, room 157, and pick up Jimi Hendrix. And I tried to play as cool as I could, but I had seen Jimi the week before at the Monterey Pop Festival, where I'd found a backstage pass on the ground. So I leave the Psychedelic shop and jump into my 1959 beat up garbage Studebaker ragtop with holes in the top and everything. And I drive down to the Travel Lodge and I knock on the door. The door's open. It's just Jimi. There's no groupies around at that point. There's no hangers on. There's nobody. Just Jimi and his guitar. And he gets in the back seat of my car and puts his guitar in the front seat right next to me. And we take off and drive the 10 minutes back to the gig. And along the way, he says, "Man, that hat, I love that hat of yours." And I tried to give it to him, but he said, "No, it won't fit over my hair." And so we finally get back to the gig, and he immediately jumps out and heads over to the stage, and I immediately roll a big fat joint, and I take 5 big fast hits, and I start laughing, not because I'm stoned, because I'm not, but because I can't see in my car. It's totally, got fog in there. So I jump out of the car and I say to myself, you know what? I drove him here. I am going to get as close as I can. And I pretty much succeeded. I didn't really necessarily realize that I was standing, right in front of Jimi, but there I was. And he's playing, and I was enjoying the hell out of myself. A couple of times I realized he was focusing on me because I'm the only one he knew, even if it was only for 15 minutes. And I think you kind of have to have, something to focus on, and he was focusing on me. I have now been around that photograph for 32 years, and I can say it's really changed my life in a lot of ways, in that I have told the story to easily 1,000 people. There's a face that they can put to, and a story that they can put to this whole thing. I've just been so happy to make people's day happy, and it's just been a gas.
The photograph that Jim Marshall took of Jimi Hendrix and Jeff McMeans has appeared in books, magazines, and was featured in an exhibit at the Grammy Museum in Los Angeles. The iconic photograph taken on that golden day in the summer of love captures the joy and magic of a moment that will live forever.